Hi, I'm the coach Dick Cox, and welcome to the Coach's Corner 2024 Women's NCAA Basketball Championship postgame report. Last year, the South Carolina Gamecocks were the number one team in the country all season long, rolled up 36 wins in a row, and looked destined to be the repeat national champions again in postseason play. But something unexpected happened in the national semifinals. South Carolina picked their worst time to play their worst game of the year, and in a huge, massive upset, the Iowa Hawkeyes knocked off South Carolina, ending their dreams of back-to-back championships and ending their season. South Carolina had 5 players on that team that went on to get drafted in the WNBA and lost all 5 starters off that team. Nobody knew where South Carolina would be this year with that devastating loss. The loss was so bad that Dawn Staley even considered retirement after that game. But instead, she decided to sit down and figure out what went wrong. And the answer to what went wrong was South Carolina was very one-dimensional last year with Aaliyah Boston inside, and basically they had to force the ball inside every game in order to win. South Carolina, to try to remedy that problem, Dawn Staley realized she had to change her game philosophy going into this season. She went out and in the transfer portal signed the best three-point shooter in the country, and that was Tihaina Paopao, who was a transfer portal student from Oregon. She went out in the high school ranks and signed the best three-point shooter in high school basketball season last year, Tessa Johnson, to come in and play for the Gamecocks. And she went out and signed the best guard in the high school ranks last year. That was Malaysia Fullenwiley, to try to help rebuild the South Carolina basketball program. Nobody talked about South Carolina going into this season. All the talk was about LSU repeating. All the talk was about how great Caitlin Clark was. Iowa, about her filling her legacy of winning a championship. But the Gamecocks flew under the radar, and all the preseason polls were ranked anywhere from 5th to 8th, and nobody gave South Carolina a chance to be in the national picture as a contender for the national championship because they had lost all 5 of their starters. There were some talented players on South Carolina's team last year that came in reserve roles, but they patiently sat and waited their time for when these seniors left to show what they could do. Again, they were McDonald All-Americans also, but had never got a chance to really play on the big stage. South Carolina's first game on the big stage was in Paris, France, when they opened the season playing a preseason number 10 team along with them, Notre Dame, in the kickoff game for women's college basketball. To everybody's surprise, the South Carolina Gamecocks came out loaded, looking like an experienced team, and they just completely wore Notre Dame out by beating them by over 40 points. That opened a lot of people then that South Carolina was not rebuilding, they were reloading. South Carolina went on to win numerous games. They went on to win 37 games in a row. And again, they did this because they had a great bench. They had 9 players on their team that were capable of starting at any time. These young ladies contributed. They played about equal minutes, and again, they had numerous different players be high score. They all bought into being a team as one, and under the leadership of Raven Johnson, their point guard, she willed them, we will not lose a game again this season. We will be able to go back, and this is our revenge tour. And basically, Raven Johnson was a young lady that last year was publicly humiliated in the national semifinal game by Caitlin Clark. Caitlin taunted her for not shooting the ball. She was doing what her coach had told her to do, and that was get the ball inside to Leah Boston. But she taunted her and embarrassed her in front of a record national audience. Raven thought about giving up basketball, too, after that ball game. She was so upset, so embarrassed, but she did some soul searching, and she decided that she was going to watch that tape. She watched it, she said, over 100 times. She was going to watch that tape. She was going to work on her shot and prove Caitlin Clark wrong that she could shoot the ball. And again, she willed that team, we will not lose. And her goal was, we're going to play Caitlin Clark again, as this is a part of the revenge tour. And that's basically what she did. We're not going to lose. We're not going to lose. And her players and her teammates bought into that. Well, lo and behold, South Carolina runs the table again this year, winning all their regular season games, dominates the tournament games, first two rounds by winning by over 40 in each of those games. And then they get back to the Final Four again, and Raven Johnson gets her chance at Iowa one more time. In the national championship game, the Iowa Hawkeyes came out hot. Caitlin Clark scored 18 points in the first quarter, and the Iowa Hawkeyes jumped out to a quick 10-0 lead, but South Carolina did not panic. Dawn Staley made a change and put Raven Johnson on Caitlin Clark to play defense. Raven is their best on-ball defender, and Raven basically shut Caitlin Clark down, wore her down physically, and shut her down where Caitlin Clark was not a factor the last three quarters of the national championship game. In the meantime, South Carolina, again, with their bench strength, Tessa Johnson comes off the bench, the true freshman, to score 19 points in the ball game. Camila Cardoso, South Carolina's big senior center, 6'7" center, set a career high with 17 rebounds. She had 15 points. Tiana Pow ended up with 14 points. And also Chloe Kitts had 11 points. As again, the South Carolina bench outscored Iowa 37-0. South Carolina won the battle on the backboards, 51-29. And the Gamecocks, when it was all said and done, had found their way to run the table and have the perfect season and finish the year 38-0 as national champions. Again, South Carolina's team, the team that I've always said, stars shine, but teams win. So again, a great team effort this year by South Carolina. And again, the good thing about it is South Carolina only loses one player off this team. That is Carmelo Cardoso, who is projected to be a top 4 pick in the WNBA, though. But with a good recruiting class, then South Carolina hopes to be back in the national picture again next year and will be the predominant favorite to repeat as national champions. After the ball game, during the post-game ceremonies, the interview people came up to on national TV and asked Raven Johnson her thoughts on the game. And she said, my only comment I have is that the revenge tour is officially over. So the revenge tour is officially over. The South Carolina fans and players waited 1 year to get to play Iowa again. The revenge tour is officially over. Reporting for Cox Sports Broadcasting and Lindy Sports, I am the coach, Dick Cox.